One of the things that I find intriguing about this gospel is the fact that our Blessed Lady notices that the wine runs out of the wedding celebration. And it's important to remember here that what we are talking about is not the sort of wedding receptions that we may be used to. A finger buffet, the cutting of the cake, a doggy bag home via the kebab shop, perhaps, little hangover the next day. Not that sort of wedding reception. This wedding reception would have lasted for a number of days, back to back, quite the celebration. And it would have been up to the family of the bride and the groom to be able to support the guests and to make sure that the guests had plenty to eat and plenty to drink. So if you've ever paid for a wedding, can you imagine how much more that would have costed? And so this situation then, in which Our Lady notices something is not quite right here, is quite the faux pas on the part of the families. Either that or the guests are big eaters and big drinkers. We all know situations, don't we, where things go a little bit wrong, where things have been perhaps a bit undercalculated. And these events are talked about in our friendship circles for quite some time afterwards. They become the basis of quite a lot of conversations. And yet from this little faux pas at the wedding celebration, we witness the reality of Jesus' first miracle, a sign, they call it, in John's Gospel. In that small conversation between Our Lady and Jesus himself, only 4 words are uttered. And yet the reality that they convey is so much more than simply they have no wine. The sentiments which it brings to the foreground of our consciousness is something greater, something which we all, I'm sure, experience in our own lives. We can see Our Lady's statement, they have no wine, in a metaphorical sense. And so we can find ourselves exclaiming, the glass is empty, or the party is finished. Or perhaps we have found ourselves reflecting upon life and finding ourselves saying that there is no vibrancy and vitality left. And when we begin to slide down this avenue, down to this point, we can allow a darkness to take over. And as I wrote this the other day, I found myself reflecting upon the question of faith and how faith is expressed in our land, or perhaps not. The sadness that some don't see faith as being relevant in their lives anymore. That what we are watching in the church is a fight-or-flight battle being engaged in, with many commentators feeling that the latter is winning the battle. In that darkness I spoke of just a moment ago, it could seem the easy thing to do would be just to give up and go home and try something else. Like the wine at the celebration, faith has run dry, and the glass remains empty, it seems. And I wonder if people who no longer walk the journey of faith with us perceive something of this for themselves. Perhaps themselves have left the wedding banquet because resources have run dry, or because there is now not much to offer the world anymore. And I think that it's important that we do reflect upon these topics together with total honesty and sincerity. For how else is anything going to change for the better and be able to move forward without us doing so? without reflecting upon some of these big issues of our time, how are we going to hold on to any sort of hope of a future for the next generations? And so when we hear Mary's, "They have no wine," this is something for us to look at and to pay attention to. It means that we have to face the question of whether we accept this journey or not, of whether perhaps we remain in a form of denial that everything is fine. And yet, more importantly again, if we do accept the premise, what are we going to do about it to bring about new opportunities for encountering the Lord? And this is the scope of the Synod. These are some of the fundamental questions which the Church Fathers are asking us to reflect upon as a parish community, as a home family community, as a school community, all together, whether we're here at Mass this morning, watching on the live stream, or find ourselves on the periphery for whatever reason. To reflect upon these fundamental questions under three headings, three pillars, if you like: communion, participation, and mission. And the Synod offers us, as a parish community, a huge opportunity, as I was saying last week in the newsletter segment. It offers us a huge opportunity for us to prayerfully approach Jesus and say to Jesus, "We have no wine," knowing that he can, and indeed he will, do something about it. This is a spiritual conversation which we need to have together, which has the potential of bringing about a huge renewal, a reawakening of our faith, where we ourselves, personally, as individuals, have the opportunity to rediscover God and our place in God's plan for us, and also to be protagonists of the Spirit, where we ourselves become those vehicles to draw others in, to allow other people to have a new relationship with God, to remove the blockages and barriers that have been caused in history. At the heart of the transformation of the water into wine is, of course, the reality that Jesus does indeed provide for the wedding. Not in a small and limited way, so they can have enough time to go to Budgeon's down the road and pick up a few more bottles. But the Lord offers those people in that tricky time an abundance. And this abundance wasn't substandard. This abundance was the best. The steward commented, didn't he? And the same will be true for us and the situations in which we ourselves find ourselves reflecting upon, as long as we're able to do this honestly and sincerely, and make ourselves vulnerable in the hands of him who we trust will respond with that same generosity, will respond to us with that same abundance. He will provide for us what we need. Indeed, he'll provide for us more than we need. We have to be ready to play our part in this, to walk together with Jesus, to become those stewards who were so essential in that miracle taking place, to pull up our sleeves and play our part in bringing about a reawakening of faith in our parish, in our family home life, in our school community, and in our wider community here in Cwmbran and beyond. Amen.